Hi guys, I'm Lisa and I'm back with another video. Today I wanted to share with you my January wrap up. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the statistics of the book. I'm going to mention the books that I've already talked about on my channel, and I'm going to talk about the remaining books that I read in the later part of the month. And yeah, hopefully this won't be as long as my usual wrap ups, but let's get started with the statistics. January started out really rough for me. I didn't read very much, but I ended up reading a total of 12 books in January. I DNF'd 2 books, and in total, including those DNF pages, I read 3,636 pages with an average of 295 pages per book. So not a total amount, and I stuck to shorter books because I was struggling a little bit. But that's fine. Sometimes you have to work with what you have. I read 1 science fiction book, I read 5 fantasies, I read 1 contemporary, I read 1 thriller, I read 2 urban fantasies, 1 historical, and 1 mystery book. In terms of formatting, 2 of them were hardcovers, 1 was a mass market, and 9 of them were audios. In terms of age groups, I read 9 books that were adult, 2 were YA, and 1 was a middle grade. In terms of length, 8 of them were novels and 4 of them were novellas. So that definitely is one of the reasons why it dragged down the average page length. The shortest book that I read this month was All My Friends Are Superheroes by Andrew Kaufman, which is 126 pages. And the longest book that I read in January was Pale Demon by Kim Harrison, which is 438 pages. In terms of the year they were published, 1 was published in the 80s, 1 was published in the 90s, 3 were published in the 2000s, 1 was published in 2010, 1 was published in 2011, 1 was published in 2012, 2 were published in 2018, 1 was published in 2019, and then I had 1 that was published in 2020. In terms of page length, I read 2 books between 100 and 199. I read 4 books between 200 and 299 pages. I read 3 books between 300 and 399 pages, and then I read 3 books between 400 and 499 pages. In terms of my series and standalone progress, I read 2 books that were standalones and 9 books that were a series book. And out of those 9 series books, 2 I started, 5 I was ongoing, and then I completed 2 series. So pretty much even with amount of finished and amount of started, but whatever. But I am happy about how much progress I made on ongoing series this month. In terms of my rating, 1 was a 2-star, 1 was a 2.5 star, 6 were 4 stars, 3 were 4.5 stars, and then I read 1 book that was a 5-star book. So with an average of 3.92 stars on average. So I definitely started out this month with my least favorite books, and I ended up my month with a pretty decent amount of good books. I said before that I'm not going to talk much about the books that I've already wrapped up. I'm just going to mention them and my rating for them, and then you can go and check out the video that I already posted to know more about my thoughts about the different books that I've read. So the first one is Moonlight by Robyn Carr, which is definitely my least favorite book of the month. I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars. It is the 10th book in the Virgin River series. Then I read Latte by Cleo Coyle, which is the 3rd book in the Coffee House mystery, and I gave that book 4 stars. That's what I wanted to say. Then I read A Madness of Sunshine by Nalini Singh. This is a thriller book. It is a standalone, and I gave this one 2.5 stars. The next one I read was All My Friends Are Superheroes by Andrew Kaufman. This is a standalone novella, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It's sort of a humorous, superhero story. Then I read Lioness, Rampant by Tamora, the 4th and final book in the Ilona Song of the Lioness quartet, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Scandal in Spring by Kleypas, the 4th and final book in the Wallflower series, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. Then I read Jingo by Pratchett. This is the 21st book in the Discworld. It's the 4th book in the City Watch book series, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And I read Come Tumbling Down by McGuire, the 5th book in the Wayward Children series, and I gave this one 4.5 stars as well. The next part is going to be the remaining 4 books that I read in the month, so I'm going to talk a little more in depth about these because I haven't wrapped them up in any videos yet. The first one of those is Diamond Fire by Ilona Andrews. This is the 3.5 book in the Hidden Legacy series, so it's sort of the gap in between the 2 story arcs in this series. And this one follows a new main character. I think this is going to be the one that we are going to be following in the next 3 books. The main character is the one who was our main character in the first 3 books, a younger sister, and she has to help planning out her sister's wedding. But when someone wants to try and murder the whole wedding receptions, it becomes a little more serious, and she has to find out who is actually wanting to kill off this whole wedding receptions. And it was a really, really fun story. It was really enjoyable to listen to. It was only 160 pages. The audio was 4 hours long, I think, in total, so I listened to it in 2 hours. And I enjoyed my time so much reading this. I think Ilona Andrews does such a good job in writing these paranormal romance / urban fantasy type books, and I'm really looking forward to reading on in that series. So I gave this one, I think this one is the one I gave 5 stars to. The only 5-star read of the month was this one, and I really, really enjoyed it. The next one I read was Gustav, Gloom and the People Taker by Adam Troy Castro. I think that's his name. This is the first book in the Gustav Gloom series. This is a middle grade series that we follow a girl whose name I've forgotten. But she moves in with her family in this new little town, and in this town there's this what looks like a haunted mansion thing where Gustav Gloom is living. Gustav Gloom is known as a very gloomy little boy. He's very white-faced, and no one really talks to him because they have so much pity, but they don't want to deal with it. But this girl sort of stumbles upon him, and they become friends, and this takes them into this magical world with this shadow people and shadow monsters, and it was so interesting. I really enjoyed it. It was really funny, and it was I think if you are that age, I think you absolutely love this series. I heard about this series the first time by Missy from Binge Reader. She was reading it with her kids, and I definitely really, really enjoyed it. They have a certain type of thing that I enjoy middle grade that was added to it, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to reading on in it. I think I definitely have access to 4 of the books from that series. I don't know how long the series is in total, but I'm definitely going to try and move on in that series over the next coming months. And I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. The next one I read was Pale Demon by Kim Harrison. This is the 9th book in the Hollow series, or it's also known as the Rachel Morgan series. I have really enjoyed the series overall, but there was like a part of it in the middle, like after the 5th book, it sort of fell downhill a little bit for me in terms of how much I enjoyed them. Like book 6 and 7 was a bit of a lull for me, but I enjoyed the 8th one. I thought it made took an interesting turn, and in this one it continued that sort of arc that started in that one, and I really, really enjoyed it. And something happened in this one that I didn't even know I wanted. I sort of thought about this concept for a while, but not really sure if I wanted it to happen. But when it finally happened, I was really, really excited and happy, and so I really, really enjoyed it, and it's definitely been my favorite since the 5th book. And so I give this one a 4.5 stars, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is all gonna end up in the next coming books. I have 4 books left in the series, so yeah. And the last and final book that I read this month was The Armored Saint by Myke. And this is one of Tor.com's short stories, or not short story, but novellas that they release every year. And this book, it is a short story because it's only 207 pages, but the audio was 7 hours, so it's almost the same length as a 300-page book, but that's fair. But this book is set in a magical world where exercising magic is believed to open a portal to hell. So anyone who's even suspected of using these magical powers or protecting those who actually does will be immediately executed, no questions asked, which it was definitely a horrible thing. So our main character, who is called, I think, Heloise, she starts rebelling against it and sort of starts a rebellion movement to working against that order that just executes people for doing magic, because she knows that it's not exactly the correct terms. So I really, really enjoyed the pacing of the story. I thought it was interesting reading one of these short fantasy books, because sometimes I think the majority of the time fantasy books are looked as though they have to be these really long big tomes in order for them to work, because you have to explain the magic system, you have to know the history of the world and all of that. But in this one you didn't really need that. You didn't really it was explained along the way, and was explained in a really good way. So I really thought that the pacing and the atmosphere and the plot development was handled really well. And I really enjoyed the messages that sort of the author came out with. And also I really appreciated there was this lesbian relationship representation in this one, and I really appreciated that part of it. So yeah, it was really a refreshing type of fantasy book that I really enjoyed, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, so I'm very, very eager to read on in this series. So yeah. Those are all of the books that I read in January and all of the things that I read in January. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. Let me know if you like this new type of format that I've decided on doing, where I'm talking a little bit less about the books and I will be able to make these shorter type of videos. How do you think they work for you? Would you prefer I talk about each and every book every month? Also let me know about that, and I will try and work my way around that. Yeah, let me know what was your favorite book that you read in January. I'd really like to know if it's something I need to add to my TBR. And yeah, this was all I have for today. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye.